Okay, so I have things to say. Ooh, I think we have a new favorite, maybe, possibly. This is very nice. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one, if I'm being honest. Who wants to take a look at some new yarns? Maybe buy a couple and then talk about them? I mean, who doesn't love to do a little bit of yarn shopping? But first, hi there, naughty friends. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Chris, aka Naughty Bear. I'm an amigurumi designer, crocheter, crafty guy here on YouTube, and I post new videos like this one every single week. And sometimes we talk about yarns that we like, sometimes we make amigurumi. We do a bunch of things here, but it's always a lot of fun. So if that sounds good to you, definitely stick around. If you are a returning viewer and you aren't subscribed, definitely consider subscribing as it helps me grow the channel. But today I have a fun one for you. We're going to be doing a little bit of a yarn review, like I said. Today we're going to be looking at Hobbii, which is no stranger around here. They have just announced or put out their Black Friday yarn collection, which is something they do every year. They make like a special limited edition of some of their more popular yarns, and sometimes they have a couple of just like random things out there. In the past, I've bought a couple. I usually buy their cotton yarn because it's very similar to the one I use for my amigurumi, but you can buy it in bulk and usually it's on sale, which is always nice. Now I have enough of that already, so I'm going to be avoiding that. I'm going to be looking for some more interesting ones, but hopefully that sounds good to you. Let's head over to their website and see what we can find. So to start off here, we're going to take a look at the whole collection real quick, just go through everything, find what we want to buy and what we like, and then the actual review portion will be a little bit later, so I will leave a timestamp here. If you just want to skip to that, you can go right ahead. All right, so the first thing we're going to do here is just mosey over to the Hobbii website, see what they got going on. It looks like they're currently running a sale called Black November. Why not? I mean, the nice thing about Hobbii is they usually have some kind of sale going on. Looks like this one will be ending November 4th. So by the time you're watching this, it'll probably be done. However, they usually have something going on, like I said, so definitely go check them out. Now, I should say here that I will be purchasing all of this yarn today myself. By myself, this is not sponsored in any way. However, if you are doing a little bit of yarn shopping, if any of this interests you, definitely check out my affiliate link down below, as I get a little bit kickback from any purchases you make there. It's no additional cost to you, but it does help me out so much. So I'm really appreciative if you go and click the link down below before you do your shopping, especially making content like this where I'm buying all the yarn and spending the shipping and the time and everything. So thank you so much in advance if you do use those links. Okay, so let's click on the Black Friday yarn collection, as that's what we're going to be reviewing, and it'll bring up all the different yarns that they have in this collection. Now, I should say here, all prices are going to be in USD. Also, as I said before, I'm buying all this yarn by myself, and I'm not made of money, so I'm not going to be buying everything in this collection. A lot of it is very similar to things we've gotten in the past. We'll be taking a look at it all, but I'm really going to stick to the things that seem unique or interesting to me, or something that I know I can use. I have a lot more yarn than I need, and I'm trying to get through it all. So if I see something that I could use to make a gift for the holiday or something, then I'll probably get it. But enough chatter, let's take a look at these yarns. Who doesn't love looking at new yarn? It's so fun. Okay, so first up we have the Black Friday cotton cake, which is something Hobbii is known for. They do these cotton cakes. I have a couple that I've bought in the past and reviewed it. So right off the bat, these are some really fun colors, very bright and bold. I know that personally from previous shopping experiences that I actually really like this yarn. I'm wearing my shawl, my skull shawl, which hopefully that didn't pick up. I know it's kind of hard to see, but we got some skulls there. It's Halloween today, so I'm wearing it. Let me do this. So you can see this was made using a cotton cake from Hobbii, and I actually really enjoyed making this, and I really like the yarn. It's very thin weight, but I also have more in a funky color, and I just don't know what I'm going to use it on for myself. Personally, I love this shawl, but I don't really wear it anywhere but here, and Halloween's over, so I probably will put it away for the year. However, it does make me feel very cool when I'm walking around the house, and I have this oh, I got caught on something. And I have this very flowy shawl. I feel very Stevie Nicks. Anyways, so I do like this yarn, but I'm not in a rush to buy more, to be honest, for me. However, if you really like making shawls, I'm sure you've heard of this before. They're, like I said, really well known for it. These colors are really cool. I'm obviously gravitating to the brighter colors here, like this one. This is just so cool. I would love to see this worked up, but I just don't think I'll be using it. So for that reason, I think we're gonna skip it. So moving on, we have the Candy Cake limited edition from Hobbii, which I don't think this is a play on one of their other ones. It just seems like a cake, and they have some fun colors here. These are very bright, very bold, which is something I'm drawn to. I've talked about in the past. I like really bright and bold colors, but I don't find myself actually wearing them as much as I probably should. Once I make it, I'm kind of like, I don't know. I always stick to like neutrals and things. However, I kind of feel like a kid in a candy store with this. So I'm definitely going to try this out because this seems interesting to me. Right off the bat, I'm most interested in number 3. I really like the purple blue with a little bit of green. It just seems really fun. Or I guess I should say blue-green with a little bit of purple. Green, purple, pink, some of my favorite colors. So I'm kind of immediately drawn to that. The problem is once it's worked up, sometimes I'm not a huge fan, but any of these could really be fun. Number 7 looks cool. Number 1's giving me like beachy summer vibes, which is fun. And they have some like neutrals with number 4. Even number 2 is like kind of autumnal. Number 5, the pastel, number 10 as well. So yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and grab a couple skeins of, or a couple balls, or a couple cakes, I guess is what you'd say, in color apple pie, and see how it goes. I really like the colors, so fingers crossed I can find something fun to make with it. All right, next up we have Black Friday wool cake, which is 80% acrylic, only 20% wool. That seems like not a lot of wool to me, but I'm not really someone that is well versed in the wool yarn kind of world, to be honest. There are some fun colors here, nothing that's really jumping out to me. This one is a pride one, which, or I guess it's more rainbow. I had a professor in college once who said she was mad because the gays stole the rainbow. Anyways, this is in a different kind of color. There's some pink and things like that, but this one's really cute and fun. I could see myself doing something with this. I don't hate these colors, but like I was kind of saying before, I'm not huge into wool and I don't have a project in mind for this. So I think for those reasons, we're just going to skip it, but definitely check it out. If you like wool and you like these colors, I'll leave some information here. If you are interested, you can take a look yourself. I'm actually looking at the whole collection here and they have more than I remember in the previous years. So I think for time's sake, we're just going to skip through a little bit here. I'm not going to show every single one. So we have another Black Friday wool color pack, which is just their wool yarn in color packs. They do this with the cotton as well. So like I said, with the other wools, probably not too interested in that. They do have this next one here, which is the Black Friday Pastel Breeze, which is not a yarn I'm familiar with. So I definitely want to take a look at that and see what's going on. So it looks like it's 63% cotton and 37% acrylic. It almost looks like a tube yarn. It feels familiar, but I don't know why. It has a very interesting ombre to it. Now, as you can see, a few of these are sold out. Now, I may or may not have already purchased these. We'll be finding out in a bit, the magic of editing, but you can see 1, 4, 5, and 6 are unfortunately already sold out. However, they have some cute blues and some neutrals and a couple warmer tones as well, so they have some things available. I am interested in this yarn. It is a little bit different. I would like to see how it works up. And purple is my mother's favorite color and Christmas is fast approaching. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and grab some of color number 6, the Lilac Rose, and see what we end up with. Moving right along here, next up we have the Black Friday Cotton, the 8/8 and the 8/4 and all that good stuff. That's the one I mentioned before. It's basically this cotton here, but in solid colors, and they sell it in like bundles. So I have a couple here I can show you actually. You know what? I'm not pulling them out. You get the idea. It's cotton yarn. So we're going to be skipping those. Now we do have the Black Friday cotton print, which is one they've done previously. And I actually have some here. I don't know if I have them all, but I can show you the ones from the previous years real quick. So I think this was last year's or the year before, maybe. Ignore the rabbit hair that was all over the top of this lid for some reason. So these are a couple of the print yarns from previous years. I think last year or maybe the year before. And I actually have a few of those left. So I'm on the fence about ordering these. Now these are different. So let's at least take a look and see what's happening here. So we have some fun colors. It looks like a little bit more like solid, like they use the same hues as opposed to like completely different colors. Except for the last two colors, 9 and 10, which are actually very reminiscent of these two. So if you like these, it seems very similar. Now, I think these were 50-gram skeins. They are. Where these ones are 100. So they're actually twice the size of these, interestingly enough. So that's kind of nice. I do like these colors. I think I would like the solid better than the multicolor. You know what? I really like this green one. It's half off and they're 100-gram skeins. So why not go ahead and just order a couple of those? All right, I love you, but you keep getting caught on things. I'll put the shawl over there for now. For the next couple ones, there's some just regular acrylic. Not interested in that. I have more than enough than I need. Same with the chenille. Not super interested in that. So we're gonna skip all of those. Which leaves us really just with one more, which is the Black Friday sock wool. Now, I did purchase for the first time in my last review, which was their Halloween wool, the Scary Sock wool. And in that video, I wasn't a huge fan of it. However, I have to say, since then, I did end up using that wool to make some socks. And I actually really enjoy them. I found a pattern that really worked well for it, and I had to get used to working with it. I'm not a huge fan of the way wool feels on my hands, so I think that was part of it. But once it was worked up and I had it on the sock, let me just show you. So this is the sock here. For some reason, it looks a little weird on camera, like the shape of it, but it does fit my foot pretty well. And I think this is cute. I used a half herringbone crochet stitch for the first time on this, and I really like it. So I would be willing to make another pair of socks. There were some things I learned off of this. So I'm interested in trying some more. So let's take a quick look at some of these colors. Interestingly enough, these come in like packs of 2 cakes each, and they're different colors. I guess they're complementary. I'm not sure if the intention here is you get to make like 2 pairs of socks, one with each color, or if it's one sock and one sock that are a pair because they complement each other. We'll talk more about the specifics, like I said in the review portion. From what I'm understanding, I think you can make 2 pairs of socks using this, and they are just complementary to each other, so maybe you could mix them up if you wanted to. So we are gonna grab some. They have 6 colors here. This one here is called Earth, and it's got one that is like some mustardy, maybe yellows mixed with like a little bit of peach, and then the complementary is like some green, some sagey colors, which is nice, but I'm not immediately drawn to it. Second color combo is called Sky. We have kind of like a muted, maybe like cloudy sky, and then like more of like a sunrise kind of thing. Again, not huge fan of that, but it's cute. This one looks like a mix of earth and sky, so it's like the 2 yellows from that. And I'm assuming number 4 is a mix of the other 2. Okay, so I see what they're doing. They're trying to mix and match here. Now, I'm most interested in these last 2 because I see a lot of color, and socks is somewhere where I actually like to add a lot of color. I don't mind it. So we have this first one here. This is cool. So this is very confetti. The first one, maybe like candy, some pastels. And then the second one reminds me of like the bus seats that we used to have as a kid on the transit near me. We're kind of in this color. So it kind of is a little bit nostalgic. It's almost kind of toy-like. So that could be interesting. And then the last one. Ooh. The last one is very interesting to me. There's a lot of color. It feels pretty unique to me. I really like that green with the flecks of pink and yellow, but I also like the blue with the brown. I think this might be my favorite one so far. All right, so that's unanimous. I'm gonna go ahead and grab color number 6 in the sock wool print. I think these will look super cute. Hopefully it's not as scratchy as the other one, but I'm sure it will be. We'll get through it, it'll be worth it. So I think that's all of the yarns that we're gonna be purchasing for today's review. Overall, there's some cute stuff here. I mean, it can't hurt that things are on sale, and it's a little bit different than their normal stuff, which is always fun. I think I'm most excited to try out this Pastel Breeze because I'm not entirely sure what it is. I didn't read too much of the descriptions of it, so we'll be getting more into it in a second here. But really cute, a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what we get. All right, so now it's time for the fun part. We get to open our package and see what we got in person and do a little review. And thankfully, through the magic of editing, the package is already here, which is always nice. Funny how that happens. So let's open it up. Looks like there was already a little bit of rip in there, but hopefully I didn't lose my candy. Never mind the yarn. It was a very small opening. All right, here is all the yarn. So many fun colors. Oh, I'm immediately really drawn to the Pastel Breeze. These are much larger skeins and cakes than I was expecting. This is very cute, really soft off the bat. My mom is gonna be obsessed with that color. It's even prettier in person. We have the cotton print, which, just to compare, let me grab the other one. I guess actually this was an official print. I guess this is actually different than the Black Friday one. I'm not entirely sure. Anyways, this is a lot of fun. I really love those greens. I could definitely see making like a little hat or something out of this, a toque, if you will. A lot of fun. Then this is the brightest one that came in this. This one is so pretty to look at. This is the Black Friday candy cake, and I definitely see why they called it candy, because those colors are really fun. I don't know what I'm gonna make out of this. Maybe a scarf or something, or a gift could be cute. And I have 2 cakes of those. And then the last thing here is the Black Friday sock wool print, which came in its own package. So let me just take it out of that. Ooh, I really like the green and pink one. I think those will be really sweet. Okay, so here are the 2 complimentary ones. I'm personally more excited for this one. However, I think this is also really cute. To be honest, I'll probably make socks of these and give this one to Dante because his favorite color is blue, whereas mine is usually green. Sometimes it's like magenta pink because I'm just a little fruity like that. Okay, so for those of you who haven't been here or who have forgotten, quick reminder of how I do my reviews. Listen, I'm just a guy here on YouTube, and these are just my opinions. You might like something that I don't like. It's just what it is. The way I do things, I usually have 3 categories: quality, value, and versatility. So quality, obviously, of the materials, how it feels in my hands, how it crochets, and then value, which is obvious. What do you get? How much yarn do you get for the price? All that kind of stuff. And then lastly is versatility. This one I do include, and I still want to keep doing it. It can be hard because when you have something that is called a sock wool, the versatility is pretty low, but it's made for that one thing. So I don't like scoring it low. However, it's nice when a yarn can be used for a bunch of different projects and you don't just have to get it for one specific thing. But I also understand that sometimes you like having a yarn for the one thing you want to make. So we'll keep it in here, but we'll definitely keep that in mind. But anyways, enough yapping and more reviewing. Also, don't worry, I still got my candy. All right, so to kick things off here, let's start with this Black Friday cotton print yarn, as I think it'll be the most familiar to me and probably a lot of you. Let's talk about the specs here. So it is 100% cotton, obviously. You get 100 grams in the skein, which is pretty good, which is 250 meters. It uses 3.5 millimeter needles and 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. You can see all the other information here. If you're interested, you can take a look at that. Now, taking it and feeling it feels pretty familiar. I will say it maybe feels a little bit more rough than their normal cotton yarn, which is pretty soft. Here, I'm not sure of the weight of this actually. What is the weight? I'll have to put the weight if I can find it somewhere there. However, if I kind of unwind this a little bit, it looks like it's probably 3 strands spun together. If I can get that apart, yes it is. So it's 3 strands spun together. This feels like maybe an 8/6, which is like the Pika-Pow yarn that they have. But overall, this seems really cute. I like the color and I'm excited to give it a shot. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a swatch. Now they are recommending, like I think it was a 4.5. So let's see what we got here. All right, so I have my 4.5 Addy swing hook here. So we're just gonna go ahead and do a little swatch and see what we think. Why is it so open inside? It's like a hollowed out cavern in there. Hello, hello, hello. just finished our first yarn swatch here. Here it is. And this one felt the most familiar. I think it will be the most familiar one. I use a lot of their cotton yarns, so I knew that I would like this. Now, the one thing I will say is it's not quite as soft as their Friends or Rainbow Cotton yarn. It isn't quite like what you think of when you think of scratchy cotton yarn, but it is a little bit more dry feeling than some of their other cottons. However, it wasn't an issue for me. I still actually really enjoyed using it. The thing I enjoyed the most, however, is the colors together. I really love this print, whereas some of their previous ones have been a lot more contrasting colors, whereas this just a little bit more subtle, and it kind of makes me wish that I had gotten one of the other colors as well. Maybe one of those teal or the blues were really pretty, because I actually really like this, and I could see myself making a few things out of this. Let's talk about the first category, which is quality. And like I said, I really like this. I didn't have any issues with splitting. It didn't split once the whole time I used it, which is always really nice. I like the drape on it. I think if I were to block it, you get an even nicer drape. I should say I did half double crochets to make this swatch, and it's actually softer feeling it here than it is when I kind of just felt it like this. But again, you do get a little bit of that dryness of the cotton, so just be warned. But I really actually enjoyed this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 2.5 Knotty Bears. I'm knocking it down a little bit just because, like I said, it has some of that dryness to it. But overall, this is a really nice yarn. So the next category is a value, and just as a reminder, this is a 100-gram skein, and you get 250 meters out of it, which is 273 yards. So you get quite a bit of yarn here. Now, it does regularly go for $10 US. However, it was on sale at the time of me buying it for half off, which made it $5. So I'm going to go ahead and say that $5 for 250 meters for a skein this size is a really good deal, considering I actually like the quality of it and I really like the color of it. So for that reason, I'm going to give it 3 out of 3 Knotty Bears. If you get it on sale, if it's the original price at $10, I'll go 2 out of 3 Knotty Bears just to be safe. But overall, I think this is a really good value yarn. Lastly, we're going to talk about versatility. Now, this is just a basic cotton yarn, so this could be used in a lot of different things. Ideally, some kind of clothing. You could use it for blankets. You could make dishcloths and tea towels. There are really a lot of things you can make out of this, and I think that the colors being a little bit more not neutral, but monochromatic, I guess, makes it a lot more versatile to me than some of the previous ones that I showed, where the colors are very contrasty and it's not going to be for everyone and it's more specific situations. So again, I think I'm going to go ahead and give this 3 out of 3 for versatility. This might be one of my highest rated yarns that we've done yet. I really like it. The only negative, like I said, it is a little bit dry. But overall, I think this is a really fun yarn. I would buy this normally. I hope that they come out with this or just keep it. It would be pretty fun, but then it wouldn't be like a limited time thing. But let me know in the comments below if you got this yarn. What did you think about it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I definitely want to know. And that goes for any of these yarns. All right, moving right along, we're going to try one that I'm probably the most excited about, which is the candy cake. I think that just looks so fun. I think this is going to be a pretty standard acrylic yarn from the feel of it, but I'm excited to see how it works out. All right, so let's talk about the specifics of this yarn. I'll have them on screen here as well. So it is 100% acrylic, like I said. This is 150 grams per cake, which is 450 meters. So you get a lot of yarn out of one cake. The size is 3.5 millimeter hooks if you're knitting. That would be needles, not hooks. You can tell I'm a crocheter. And then a 4.5 millimeter hook. If you need the conversions, you can just look at the screen there. So overall, pretty standard for an acrylic yarn. Tap, tap, tap from the each. Overall, a pretty standard acrylic yarn. This one actually does have the number 2 on it for fine, so it is a fine weight yarn. Did I miss that on the last one? Did just realize I missed the number 3, so this is a light yarn for the cotton yarn before. Why won't you focus? There. It is interesting. I'm noticing that this one was a number 3, which is a light, but they recommend a 4.5. And this is a number 2, which is a fine, yet they still recommend a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. So we're just gonna go ahead and use what they recommend. But for this, I would probably go a little bit smaller normally. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and make our swatch. So our swatch is finished here, and I don't know how I feel about this one, if I'm being honest. I did have to cut out, or take out rather, I didn't cut it, just pull out some of the color because there's like a long amount between the color changes, and I didn't want to make this a huge swatch. And I wanted to get to a couple of those color changes just to see how they were. The first one between the green and the purple was not my favorite here. It kind of just like changed like really quickly. There was no fade over, and what was there was like this big, and it was just kind of like a grayish color. So it's really just like one color to the next. Now I will say the green fading into the blue, which obviously is easier to do. There is a little bit more of like a gradient there where the green gets a little bit more darker and bluer, but still the color change happens, the actual color change happens rather really fast. So again, this ends up looking a little bit more blocky than I like. When I've done these in the past in a swatch like this, it always reminds you of some kind of flag. I don't know if there's a flag that uses these colors. But anyways, let's talk about our categories. So the first category is quality, and for this yarn here, it's a pretty standard acrylic yarn. Now, I didn't have any issues with it splitting or anything like that. The stitch definition is pretty nice. I'm definitely not mad at it. It doesn't have much of a drape to it, but that could obviously change with blocking. It doesn't feel the softest, but it's certainly not the scratchiest acrylic I've ever used. But I would say this is pretty comparable to like a standard value acrylic yarn. I've definitely used nicer acrylics from Hobbii. However, I understand that this is not trying to be those. So for that reason, I'm going to give it 2 out of 3 Knotty Bears for value. It's good, but not amazing. Next up, we have value, and just as a reminder, you get 150 grams and 540 meters per cake, which is a lot of yarn, and the cost is $13 US. But again, this one was on sale when I bought it for 50% off. So similar to last time, I think you get a lot of yarn out of this, which is nice. So as far as the value goes, especially if you get this on some kind of sale, I'm definitely going to give it a 3 out of 3. $13 normally. It's a little expensive, however, I still think it deserves a 2.5 for value. And then our last category is versatility. Now, normally with an acrylic yarn like this, I would give it a pretty high score because acrylic can be used for a lot of different things, clothing, amigurumi, etc. However, because these colors are so specific and bright, and the color changes, the gradients are not really there, it's very blocky, which I think can work for very specific projects, but I don't see there being a whole lot of different things that I would use this for. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you have a project in mind I could use for this, because I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with it, but I definitely want to use it because I think the colors are pretty. But as far as versatility goes, I'm going to have to give it a 1.5, unfortunately. Overall, I think this is a fun yarn. I really like the colors they went ahead and used. It's a basic acrylic yarn. You're not getting anything crazy out of it. However, you do get a lot for what you buy, especially if it is on sale. For that reason, I do think it's a good yarn. You just have to have a very specific project for it. Next up, we have the one that I'm the most excited to try out, and that is the Black Friday Pastel Breeze, and this beautiful kind of pink and purple color. I love the way this looks. It's already so soft, so I can't wait to try it out. Let's talk about the specifics of it. As you can see here, this is a 63% cotton yarn and 37% acrylic. It is 100 gram skein again, and that gets you 230 meters. They do recommend a 3.5 knitting needle and a 4.5 again crochet hook. It's a running theme here, I guess. There's all the information if you want to take a look. And this is a number 3, which is a lightweight yarn. Very excited for this, so let's go ahead and make our swatch. Ooh, I think we have a new favorite, maybe, possibly. This is very nice. So I ended up doing a slightly larger swatch for this just because it took quite a bit of time to get to some of those color changes or the gradient, and I really wanted to get the full effect. With that said, however, I really didn't mind at all having to work with this yarn. You know when you try a yarn for the first time and it's like love at first stitch? That's how I'm feeling about this yarn. I'm really excited about it. So let's talk about it. There is our swatch, and it's just so soft. It feels much more luxurious than you would think a cotton acrylic blend would be, but I love the stitch. There's like a slight haloing there, and the gradient is so much more subtle, as you can see here. It's just so pretty to look at, as opposed to the previous yarn where the gradient is just kind of like a little bit more blocky. I'm not as big a fan of that, but this one I really like, and it kind of makes me sad that this is the only one that I don't think really has an equivalent like basic version on available all year round. I'll have to look into that and see if I can find something, whereas the other ones, there's something very similar that you can usually find at any time. But it makes me sad. Maybe this is just a limited time thing, because I could see this being used for a bunch of different things, and as you could probably tell, I really like this yarn. With that said, let's give it its review. Okay, so let's talk about the first category, which is quality. And like I was saying, this yarn feels much more luxurious to me. It's so soft. I really like it, the way it worked up. I didn't have any issues with splitting or anything like that. I even tried working into the back loop at a certain point in here, because that's usually where I run into issues with splitting. And personally, I didn't have any. It's so soft. The stitch definition is beautiful. Look how nice those stitches look. I'm so excited about it. And I really love that gradient, how it slowly gradients into some of these pink colors here. I think that's a lot of fun. I do hope they get more of this in stock and it's not permanently sold out, but honestly, there were a lot of nice colors still left. And overall, I just really like this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 3 out of 3 Knotty Bears for quality. It also has a really like gentle haze to it. I don't know if that's picking up on camera, but it just gives it like an extra little bit of softness, which is nice. All right, next category is a value. And just as a reminder, this is 100 gram skein with 230 meters in it, and honestly, that's quite a bit of yarn for one skein. I'm not mad at this. The default price is $9, which I think is pretty good, USD again, and it was on sale as well, half off when I bought it, which made it $4.50, which I think is another great deal here. I think all of these honestly were fairly priced. Like the ones previous, I think I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 3 Knotty Bears. For price. I think for in both cases, $9 for 100 grams, 250 meters is pretty good, and $4.50 or anything on sale is even better. So I think we're gonna give it a safe 3 out of 3 Knotty Bears. Can it make it 3 out of 3 in all categories? Let's find out. The last category for this yarn is a versatility, and I could see myself making quite a few things out of this yarn. Probably most likely wearables because I think it's so soft and the stitches are so pretty. We are doing a crochet along on my Patreon through the Discord, and we're going to be making some gloves. So I could see myself making the gloves out of these. I think that's what I'll use it for. If you are interested in joining the Patreon, you can check out the link down below. You'll get access to my Discord behind the scenes things. You also get discounts on my shop or the videos early and free patterns and a bunch more. So definitely go check it out if you're interested. But like I said, I'll probably be making some gloves out of this, some different wearables, but you could also make a beautiful blanket out of this, some home goods and things. I think this would be great. It is an acrylic and cotton-based yarn, which I think is an interesting combo. It's not one I would think would work as well as it does here, but again, like I've been saying, it's so soft and I really like it. The only thing I will say for this is because of the colors, they're all gradient like this, there are no solids, so it kind of holds it back a little bit, but I'm still gonna go ahead and give this 2.5 Knotty Bears out of 3 for versatility. I just think that there are so many projects, wearables, blankets, home goods, and things like that you could use this yarn and it would be perfect for. But this is by far my favorite yarn that I've reviewed in a long time. I really enjoyed this. Hobbii, if you're watching, definitely make this like a mainline thing, some kind of version of this that's always available year round. I think it would do really well. All right, everyone, home stretch, last yarn to review, and that is our sock wool print, which unfortunately the labels on these got a little chewed up, but the yarn looks fine. So right off the bat, this feels very similar to the Scary sock wool. I'm sure it is the exact same. A little bit rough on the hands, however, I've learned that worked up properly into a sock, it's not as big of a deal, especially since it's on your feet. All right, so let's take a look at the specs on this yarn. Here they are. I'm probably just gonna do a swatch of one of these. I'll probably do the green and pink one because that's the one I like more. So again, it is 75% wool, 25% polyamide. You get 113 grams, and that is 463 meters. So you get a pretty good meterage out of this. 3mm knitting needles and a 4mm crochet hook. So this is the only one that's a little bit different. It is labeled as a number 1, which is a super fine yarn, which is pretty normal for sock yarn. So let's go ahead and take this one and make our swatch. Let's talk about it. Okay, so from probably my favorite yarn, like I said, that I've tried in a while, to one of my least favorites. Okay, so I have things to say. Here is our swatch first. As you can tell, it looks like we've been through some things here. What I was expecting going into this was an experience similar to the Scary sock wool, which is the Halloween version of this, which is the sock I showed earlier. It looked like this, and I actually ended up liking the quick color changes here. It created kind of a fun sock effect that I thought worked really well, or a fun look that worked well for the sock rather. That's what I thought I was going into, and I've also gotten, I've grown up a little bit, I'm not a baby, and I've gotten a little bit more used to using wool and a little bit rougher yarns on my hand. So I was ready for this yarn. I thought I knew what I was expecting going into it. So needless to say, I was ready for this yarn. I was excited for it. However, what I found in even this small swatch, I started here to here, I ran into yarn that had almost like blown out. It was just fuzzy. I ran into a factory knot, and then I even ran into this, which is where the yarn was just completely broken and frayed. Hopefully that's catching up there somewhere. And that was only in the first half of the swatch. And then the second half, I wasn't enjoying the colors. Some of those look kind of like just washed out. I was trying to give this the best look possible by doing the herringbone stitch, which is what I used for the sock I did. I used that here, but then I just gave up because I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. Let's just get this swatch over with. I did not enjoy using this yarn, unfortunately, which makes me really sad, but let's review it. So first up, we have quality, and for all the reasons I just said, you know, to run into fraying, blown out yarn, factory knots within the first couple minutes of using it is not good. And then on top of that, I just don't love how those colors are looking necessarily. I was expecting it to be a little bit different. I am going to give this another shot and try and work on this a sock pattern, the same one I used for that, because I really enjoyed it, and see where we get to. I don't want to waste this yarn. That added on to the fact that it is a rougher yarn anyways, so if you don't like that, you're already kind of at a loss. And then we have the stitch definition, which isn't terrible, but at the same time, I'm also not in love with it. I mean, it looks okay on camera. In person, there is a haloing that I'm not crazy about. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to give this 1 out of 3 Knotty Bears for quality. Next category is value, and just as a reminder, you get 463 meters out of each cake, and this did come as a bundle, so you do get 2 cakes. And for those 2 cakes, it is $28 US, which is $14 per cake, which seems a little bit more expensive. I'm assuming it's because it is wool, which tends to be a little bit more pricey. However, for that cost and the fact that I'm having issues with it, the quality also kind of comes in here. So I don't know, it's a little bit pricey. With that said, however, it is currently, as when I bought this anyways, 60% off, which makes it $11.20 US for both of these, which is a much better price. So I think if you're going to get this, definitely get it on sale because the original price is a little bit steep. I'm going to go ahead and give this 1.5 Knotty Bears for the full price if you get it at 28 US. If you do get it on sale, I think $11 for 463 meters is quite a fair price. So in that case, I would give it 2 out of 3 Knotty Bears. Last up, we have versatility, and I talked about this a little bit before, where sometimes the yarn has a specific purpose. This is obviously made to make socks, so I can't be too harsh on the fact that it doesn't do much else. However, what it is supposed to do, I'm not finding it doing very well. Now, I will leave a comment down below. I'll pin it. If I work on this between now and this video coming out and I've changed my mind, I'll do that for any updates. But as of right now, I'm just going to go and give this 1.5 out of versatility, just because there isn't anything you could use it for, and what it needs to work for right now in this moment, I'm just not liking it. All right, everyone, those are all the yarns we have for today's review. Overall, I really like this collection from Hobbii. I like that they do this in tandem with different sales closer to the end of the year. A lot of people are making gifts and stocking up on yarn, so this is a good opportunity to get a bunch of yarn for your projects. So I really like that overall. I think the collection was a lot of fun. There are obviously a lot more basic yarns that you can go take a look at if you're interested. I tried to stick to things that were a little bit more interesting or different, and we ran the gamut. We found my new favorite, which was that Pastel Breeze, which is just lovely. I can't wait to use this. My mom's gonna be very happy with whatever I make out of that. And then we had my not so favorite, the Sock Wool, which is funny because it was also my least favorite for the Halloween review, but that was just because I didn't like the feeling on my hands, and the stitches weren't my favorite, but I ended up liking it. Whereas this time I was having more issues with just like the quality of it wasn't hitting for me, unfortunately. And then you add on the fact that it's scratchy, which it's a wool, what are you gonna do? And the price is the most out of all of these. Unfortunately, it wasn't for me, but I am still gonna try and make some cute socks out of it. If anyone has suggestions, like I said, for this yarn here, let me know in the comments below what I should make out of it. But this was a lot of fun. If you enjoy this style of video, you like watching me use different yarns and talk about different ones, consider checking out this other video on Hobbii yarns I did. I tried out some of their more popular yarns and gave my thoughts and opinions there, so definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate you coming back every week. If you enjoyed it, give me a like, consider subscribing as it helps me out a lot. Also, a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for being here. I really could not do this without you. It means so much to have your support, so thank you so much for being here. If you you are interested in joining the Patreon, I will leave the link down below. Also, why not go check out knottybearstudio.com. That is my website. There you can find a whole bunch of different things, amigurumi patterns, you can find goodies, stickers, Knotty Bear merch. Knotty Ween just ended, but we will be doing some fun stuff for Christmas. Also, you can find the Ultimate Pattern Journal, which is a digital journal for good notes for people who make patterns. It's just a fun way to organize all of your notes and everything as a bunch of different stickers and all that. You can find it there as well. But anyways, that's it for me. I will catch you in the next one. But until then, stay naughty, friends. Bye. Oh my God, she sat and did a full yarn review in one sitting. Oh, my back is gonna hate me later. Interestingly, PG, do we have to be making that noise right now? Oh. I have the Ultimate Pattern girl.